Welcome to Home Biz Tax Talk. My name is Lysandra Everett. I am the Home Biz Tax Lady, where I help home business owners win the tax game. Home Biz Tax Talk airs Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock-ish. And when you tune into my show, you're going to hear about topics that are important to the home business community. And today we are talking about when should you form a corporation. So we're really talking about business structures. So business structures is not something that you take lightly, okay? There's all different types of different business structures. You got your sole proprietorship, your partnership, your S Corp, and your C Corp. Okay. Those are the four main types of business structures. Now, somebody is sitting there saying, well, what about the LLC? The LLC is a disregarded entity. And what that means is if you have a single member LLC, the IRS says, great, but we're still going to treat you like a sole proprietor. If you have a multi-member LLC, the IRS is going to say, great, we're going to treat you like a partnership. Now, with the flexibility of the LLC, though, is such that you can elect to be treated like an S Corp or a C Corp. So that is the beauty of the LLC. But at the end of the day, you are a sole proprietor, a partnership, an S Corp, or a C Corp. Okay. At the end of the day, that is what you are. You will file those forms. There's no special LLC form, for you to file your business taxes. Okay. So you have to follow the rules of those different types of structures. So the question is now is like, okay, when do I make this decision for me? The answer is that it's different for everyone. Okay. There are people that have S Corps that should not have them. There are people that start out as C Corps that should not do it. There are people that are sole proprietorships that should not be sole proprietorships. Okay. So just know that answer is different from everyone. For everyone, there is no one answer that fits across the board. So the best I can do for you is really tell you some things to consider before making the decision. Okay. So number one is to consider the income of the business. Okay. So a lot of times I get people who come to me, like, I have an LLC. I want to form an S Corp. The first question I ask is, how much money are you making? None. Well, that's not always a good thing, because depending on the state that you're in, some states are minimum tax states, meaning that they don't care how much money you don't make. Your minimum tax is XYZ. Massachusetts and California come to mind right off the bat. Okay. So if you have an S Corp in one of those states, you're going to pay a minimum tax regardless of whether or not you made money. So this is why you really have to consider the income of the business. Like, are you, are you making money? And so sometimes it's really just not a bad idea to start out as an LLC. And a lot of times I recommend that just simply because it's easier to form and the flexibility of the structure. But I am not telling you to run out and start an LLC. If you are just getting started in business, having a sole proprietorship at the beginning may be okay. It just depends on the nature of your business. If you have the potential for getting sued and increased potential for getting sued for whatever reason, and I will tell you, you need to start out as an LLC so you can have that liability protection in place. Okay. But mind you, this bookkeeping is such an important part of this. Bookkeeping and how you're running your business. Because if you are commingling funds, I don't care what kind of structure you have, your liability protection goes out the window. So if you're not keeping that money separate, you can kiss your liability protection goodbye. Okay, that is what allows what's called piercing of the corporate veil. And that is what will allow a judge to attach your personal assets, even though this may be a business issue. So make sure you get your whole bookkeeping and get your money life together before you go off all willy-nilly with these business structures. Okay, so that's important. So income of the business, how much money is the business making? If the business is just getting started, just getting off the ground, you might not want to jump off into an S Corp or something like that because of the potential for you having to write checks that you don't have money to write. Okay. So income of the business. Number two is also your spouse's income. Okay. So, in a lot of situations, you have a spouse that's just starting a business, but you also could have a spouse that's already in business or have some boss out 6-figure job, right? So you have to consider that. And this is why there's no one answer for everyone. You have to look at the overall big picture. So even though on a regular day, it might not be a good idea for your business to be an S Corp, but because of your spouse's income and what they're doing, it may be a better idea for you to become an S Corp or C Corp sooner rather than later, just because of the tax implications for the whole family. So this is not a one type of thing. We're just looking at one thing. Taxes is a big picture, and your spouse's income and potential for income may actually influence that decision as to what kind of business structure that you choose. Okay. That's number 2. Number 3, what are the plans for the company? Think about your future needs. Are you going to need investors? Are you going to need shareholders? Do you plan on selling shares and all of that? You got to think about what your vision is for the company and what is the best structure that's going to help you get there. Because, while an LLC may be working out for you right now, if you're planning on selling shares and taking on, shareholders and that kind of thing, then you're going to need to have an S Corp or a C Corp. But hold the phone. If you have an S Corp, you can't have foreign partners, right? You can't have foreign shareholders. So then C Corp would then be your only option. So you got to think about the future of your business, what kind of needs you're going to have, who's going to be involved in your business, because we are in a global economy now. We are talking about, we're talking to people that are in Australia. We're talking to people in China. This internet has really made globalization possible for everyone. Okay. So this is why, you need to know the rules. And so even though an S Corp might be the better math thing for you, depending on who's involved in your business, an S Corp might not be possible for you. The other thing to keep in mind when it comes to an S Corp is the husband and wife are considered one shareholder. This is important because let's say you're single, ready to mingle, right? And then you have an S Corp, which is awesome. You're just over there bossing out everything. Then you go and meet your dream boat in another country. Okay. Let's say you go to Brazil, you go somewhere else, you go to Italy, whatever, right? You go to Africa and meet your boo thing and you get married. Well, now you have to change your business structure because that person is not a U.S. citizen. When it comes to an S Corp, all your shareholders have to be U.S. citizens. And if you get married to a non-U.S. citizen and you have an S Corp, then you're going to have to change your business structure because you broke one of the rules. So you got to think about, plans for the company, who's going to be involved in the company, where are you going? And you have to find the structure that's going to best fit those needs. Okay. Then the next thing is control of the company. Now, this is important. So when you look at, everybody's like, we're going to go take our company public. Oh my God, we're going to go public, right? Because think Lyft just went public. But here's what happens when you take your company public. You, as the owner, potentially lose control of the company. So take how Apple fired Steve Jobs. The Men's Warehouse, that commercial, you're going to like how you look, I guarantee it. And he came out in support of legalizing marijuana or something. And they gave him the boot from his own company, right? So when you are talking about control, you got to think about what how you want to control this thing. And that's, the devil is in the details. Like when you decide to take on shareholders and how much of that company are you really going to control? And once you lose control of that company, then you really lose ownership of that company. And then whatever that board of directors decides, because you got to have one if you're a C Corp. So if you got this board of directors and they decide you are not the best fit for this company anymore, holla. right? So so when you, take your, have your corporation and you have your board of directors, and if they don't agree with the direction that you're taking, then guess what? They can give you the boot and your company goes out the window. It happens, right? We've seen it on lots of major scales, right? So think about how you want to control your company and how many, if you have an S Corp or a C Corp, how many shares you're going to have, how many you're going to sell. Because when you go and sell, ownership of your company, that is it. When you're selling shares, that's exactly what you're doing. You're selling ownership in your company. And so while somebody having one share doesn't do anything, if somebody's got like 49-50% of those shares, then all of a sudden you don't have the controlling ownership. So you got to think about the control in your company and what you want to do. The next thing is compliance. Now, a lot of times we hear all these fabulous things about, all these different types of business structures, but we don't think about the compliance that's involved. Okay. The compliance is so key. The lack of compliance with state compliance and federal compliance can land you in so much hot water. For S Corps is, you as the owner of the S Corp, you are an employee of the business. So you got to pay yourself a reasonable wage. You got to pay yourself on a W-2, all this stuff. If you're not doing that and you get caught, you can get in trouble. And it's not just little trouble, it's big trouble, right? So you have to think about what is it going to take to comply with everything that you need to do? Is it, are you going to have to hire a team? Are you going to have to hire, you will definitely have to hire bookkeeping and payroll. Okay. Those are two basic things that you're going to need to hire when you're talking about, going through, basically going from, maybe an LLC to an S Corp or a C Corp. You got to have those things in place. But it's also administrative compliance that is also key to you running a successful company. Because they look at things like, like we talked about earlier with the money. How is the money flowing from one place to the other? Like, how does that look? And this is how companies get in trouble because they don't have all that stuff in place. And they also, even though we're talking about compliance, is you have to make sure that, when you're choosing a business structure, that it really is the right thing for you. Because when you decide, I don't want to do this anymore, or this was the wrong decision, the ramifications of that can be also, a pain in the butt. So like with the corporation, you just don't get to shut down a corporation, right? You've got to get permission to do that. And with an S Corp, let's say you're an LLC and then you file to become an S Corp. That's great. And then you decide, okay, no, this was the wrong decision. And so then you decide, okay, I don't want to be an S Corp anymore. Well, then you can't be an S Corp again for 5 years. So you have to make these decisions like with the full picture of what's going on, because I've seen it happen like, oh my gosh, I filed this S Corp because I heard blah, blah, blah. This isn't the right thing for me. Well, you either suck it up and stay an S Corp, or you rescind your S Corp and then you can't be an S Corp again for 5 years. Even if in 2 years, you're like, okay, now I should be an S Corp. You won't be able to do it again. So these are the nitty gritty things that you don't know, that you got to know before you go making these decisions. And you don't want to do it on your own. And the last thing is taxes. Yes, taxes. Okay, so one of the main reasons that people change business structures is because of taxes, right? You have to figure out which structure is going to provide the best possible action for your taxes. What's going to cost you the least, right? But, and so this is why I said you have to look at the entire picture. You have to look at, okay, if I have a C Corp, C Corps pay taxes. That is the only business structure that pays federal taxes. Everybody else deals with the state. So, even though, like, oh my gosh, corporate taxes has a 21% tax rate. Well, if you're only paying, a 15% tax rate as an S Corp or as an LLC, why would you jump out of the frying pan into the fire? But again, it's all in the big picture of, all the things I talked about. You're like, what are the plans? And so the plans of the company may require that you bite the bullet on taxes in the beginning. So, so this is why that, these are things to consider. It's not a one size fits all. No one answer is right for everyone. And you have to understand the compliance and the ramifications if you don't get this right. So this is why, you'll hear everybody in the finance community say, you don't go make this decision on your own. Just because, you might be able to go to a site online to create an S Corp or C Corp or whatever, it doesn't mean it's the right decision for you. These sites let you do what you want to do. It doesn't mean it's the right thing for you to do. This is why you pay and talk to somebody that can look at your whole big picture and say, okay, this is what, this is what may be the best thing for you. And this is why. But ultimately, that decision is yours. It's not your tax person. It's not your accountant. It's not your investment person. The only person that is responsible for that decision is you. But so you have to get as much information as possible. Look at all the pros and cons, because you know what? In some ways you're going to win and in some ways you're going to lose. But if you don't know what those wins and losses are, then you're not going to be, you're not going to be making an educated decision. Okay? So yeah, that's it, guys. So yeah, sorry, it's there's no one answer. You really need to consult with someone and look at your options. But for me, I really like starting out as an LLC because it offers you the flexibility to start out small. And then as you make more money, then you can file to become, an S Corp or a C Corp. You have that flexibility. But when you start out as a C Corp, you're a C Corp. If you're an S Corp, you're an S Corp. That's what it is. There's no going, no freely to move about the cabin, like the flexibility that an LLC offers. So yeah, so before you make that decision, make sure you consult with someone that looks at your entire picture, not just your business, but also look at your whole entire family income, your whole big tax picture, all of that stuff, so that you can make the best decision for your company. All right. So thank you so much for tuning in to Home Biz Tax Talk. Again, we air Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock-ish, and you can come in here. There you go, right there, and get your questions answered about your home business taxes. And if you haven't booked your complimentary 15-minute consultation, you can do it right there. All right, have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.